Chosen one, stop scrolling right now. Do not move your thumb. Do not look away, because in this very hour, heaven has pulled back a curtain that has been closed for far too long, and what was hidden in secret has just been exposed in the light. This is not a coincidence. This is not a random video that appeared on your screen by accident. You were led here, positioned here, summoned here, because God has been watching a betrayal unfold against you for a long time, and tonight, the cover has been ripped off of it. Someone you called a friend, someone you trusted with your heart, your struggles, your dreams, and your secrets, has been living a double life in your story. To your face, warmth; to your face, laughter; to your face, loyalty. But behind your back, in rooms you were never invited into, in conversations you were never shown, that same friend has been quietly working against you. And God says the season of that hidden work is over. What was done in secret has just been exposed, and I am here to declare it over your life with prophetic clarity. This is not entertainment. This is not background noise while you scroll through your day. This is a divine interruption, and it is happening right now in this exact moment, because heaven has chosen this hour to deal with what has been eating at your peace for months. If your spirit just felt a jolt reading those words, that is not your imagination. That is recognition. That is heaven confirming that this message was written for you before you ever pressed play. Before we go further, I need you to respond in faith, because agreement releases power. If something in you already knows exactly who this is about, comment the words, "The truth is out." Right now, before you keep watching, type 777 beneath this video as your declaration that you receive this word and you refuse to keep carrying a betrayal you did not create. Like this message so heaven can track how many hearts needed this exact reminder tonight. Subscribe if you have not yet, so that you never miss the next word meant to protect your peace. And share this with someone you know has been smiling through a friendship that quietly stopped feeling safe. Because chosen one, what I am about to walk you through is not just information, it is liberation. Let me tell you what this friend actually did, because you deserve to finally see it clearly instead of only feeling it in fragments. This was not a stranger who hurt you. A stranger's betrayal stings, but it does not shatter you because you never expected loyalty from a stranger. This wound cuts deeper because it came from someone who sat across from you at dinner, who knew your family, who knew your fears, who knew exactly where your heart was soft and exactly how to press on it without leaving a visible mark. In private messages you were never shown, that friend turned your vulnerability into entertainment for someone else's amusement. In conversations that happened in rooms you were not standing in, your name was used as a punchline, your struggles were used as gossip, your trust was used as material. When you shared something tender, something you only gave to people you believed were safe, it did not stay safe. It traveled. It got repeated with a smirk attached to it. It got twisted just enough that when it came back around, you almost did not recognize your own story anymore. This friend learned how to smile at you while quietly aligning with people who did not wish you well. When others spoke against you, that friend did not defend you the way a real friend should have. Instead, there was a careful, calculated silence, a silence that said just enough without saying anything that could ever be traced back. And in private, behind closed doors, in group chats you were never added to, that silence became agreement. That agreement became commentary. That commentary became a slow campaign to make you look unstable, dramatic, difficult, or simply less than you actually are, so that this friend could look stable, reasonable, and blameless by comparison. This is the oldest trick in the enemy's playbook. He rarely attacks you through someone who clearly hates you. He attacks you through someone who is close enough to know exactly where it will hurt the most, and distant enough in their heart to no longer care that it does. Think about how it actually happened, because the details matter more than you have allowed yourself to admit. There was a version of you that showed up fully in that friendship. Unguarded, generous, quick to celebrate their wins, and quick to show up in their hard seasons. You remembered birthdays, you answered calls at inconvenient hours, you kept their secrets even when keeping them cost you something, and in return, pieces of your life became currency, traded quietly for a laugh, for social standing, for a moment of being the one who knew something about you that made a room lean in and listen. Maybe it started small, a private joke shared with the wrong person. A slightly exaggerated version of a hard season you went through, retold in a way that made you sound weaker than you were. Maybe it grew from there into full conversations about your character held in your absence, conclusions drawn about your motives that were never once checked with you directly. You were talked about instead of talked to, and that is the exact definition of betrayal dressed up as friendship. There is an old story that captures this pattern with painful precision. In the life of King David, one of the deepest wounds he ever wrote about did not come from an enemy soldier or a foreign king. It came from a trusted friend, a man who had once eaten at his table and walked with him to worship, who later turned and joined a rebellion against him, using his closeness and his knowledge of David's heart to cause maximum damage. David wrote that if an enemy had done this, he could have endured it, he could have hidden from it, but it was a close friend, a companion he trusted, someone he walked with in fellowship, and that is what made the wound unbearable. If you feel that ache of recognition reading this, that is not coincidence. That is heaven showing you that your pain has been written about before, survived before, and healed before, and it can be healed in you too. In his writings on temptation, C.S. Lewis described how the powers of darkness prefer to work quietly, through small erosions of trust rather than dramatic explosions of hatred, because a slow poison is harder to notice than a sudden blow. And by the time you feel the damage, you can hardly point to a single moment and say, "There, that is where it began." That is exactly the strategy that was used against you. Not one dramatic betrayal you could easily name and walk away from, but a long, slow accumulation of small compromises, secret conversations, quiet alliances, and careful positioning, until one day you looked around and realized the ground beneath this friendship had shifted, and you were the only one who had not been told. Have you ever laughed at something a friend said, and a second later felt a strange, cold discomfort you could not explain? Have you ever caught a glance exchanged between two people the instant you walked into a room, a glance that stopped the second you noticed it? Have you ever replayed a conversation at 2 in the morning, turning over every word, asking yourself if you were imagining the distance, if you were being paranoid, if you were simply too sensitive? You were not imagining it. You were not too sensitive. You were picking up on something real, something your spirit was trying to warn you about long before your mind had the evidence to prove it. You brushed it off because you loved this person. You gave them the benefit of the doubt again and again because that is who you are. Someone who chooses grace over suspicion, someone who would rather trust and be wrong than doubt and miss real friendship. That is not weakness, chosen one. That is the very character heaven is about to reward. There were nights you sat alone with your phone in your hand, staring at a message thread that used to feel warm and now felt like walking on ice. You wondered what you had done wrong. You went back over your own words, your own actions, wondering if you had somehow caused this shift, this coldness, this quiet exclusion from things you used to be part of. You carried the weight of a betrayal you did not even fully understand yet, blaming yourself for a wound someone else inflicted in secret. You told yourself it was probably nothing. You told yourself you were overthinking it. You kept showing up, kept being kind, kept defending this friend to other people, even while something in your gut kept whispering that the story you were being told was not the whole story. Have you ever sat in a group of people you thought were your circle and felt, for no clear reason, like the temperature in the room had dropped the moment you spoke? Have you ever sent a message and watched it sit there unanswered for hours from someone who used to reply within minutes and told yourself they were probably just busy, even while some quiet part of you knew that was not the whole truth? Have you ever found out, almost by accident, through a screenshot forwarded by someone else, through a slip of the tongue, through a detail that did not add up, that a story you told in confidence had been repeated, twisted, and used against you in a conversation you were never part of? That moment when the pieces click into place is one of the loneliest moments a person can go through, because it does not just cost you the friendship, it costs you your trust in your own judgment. You start asking, how did I not see this? What else have I missed? Who else knows something I don't? That spiral is exhausting, and it is exactly what the enemy wants, because a person questioning their own discernment is a person who becomes easier to isolate. I need you to hear this clearly. Every one of those quiet moments of confusion was recorded in heaven. Every tear you cried in private over a friendship that stopped making sense was seen by the eyes of God. You were never alone in that pain, even when it felt like no one else could see what was happening. Heaven was not distant while you sat with that ache in your chest, wondering if you were losing your mind. Heaven was gathering evidence. Heaven was preparing the exposure. And now, in this hour, the very thing that was hidden is being dragged into the light, not to destroy anyone, but so that you can finally stop carrying blame that was never yours to carry. If you feel that truth landing in your spirit right now, write it in the comments. Say, "I was never the problem." Let that declaration mark the moment you stopped absorbing someone else's betrayal as your own failure, because, chosen one, the next thing I need you to understand is even bigger than the betrayal itself. There is a story in the book of Genesis about a young man named Joseph, sold into slavery by the very brothers who should have protected him, betrayed by people who shared his blood, hated for the favor that rested on his life. For years it looked like that betrayal would define his entire story. He suffered in a foreign land, falsely accused, forgotten in a prison cell, while the people who had discarded him carried on with their lives as if nothing had happened, but heaven was not finished. Years later, standing face to face with the very brothers who had betrayed him, now holding power over their future, Joseph said the words that echo across every generation of betrayed hearts since, "What you intended for harm, God intended for good." That is not just a beautiful sentence. That is a legal verdict from heaven over situations exactly like yours. Your friend intended something. God is now doing something else entirely with it. And what God is doing is always bigger than what was intended against you. C.S. Lewis once wrote about how the deepest pains of life often serve as a kind of megaphone, a way that heaven gets our attention when softer invitations have gone unheard. If this betrayal has broken something open in you, a hunger for real friendship, a new discernment about who deserves access to your heart, a fresh dependence on God instead of people, then the very wound this friend caused is becoming the doorway to something they never intended to give you. They meant to shrink you. Heaven is using it to expand you. Watch closely, because heaven is about to move in 3 specific areas of your life at once. First, your name. What was whispered about you in secret is going to be met with truth surfacing in ways no one can explain away. People who were fed a false version of your story are going to start noticing inconsistencies, start remembering the real you, start asking quiet questions that eventually lead them back to the truth. You will not have to defend yourself loudly, chase anyone down, or send a single message trying to correct the record. Heaven will let the truth defend itself in its own timing, through its own witnesses, in a way that carries far more weight than anything you could have argued in your own defense. There is a kind of vindication that only comes when you stay quiet and let God handle the noise, and that is exactly the kind that is coming for you. Second, your relationships. The false friendship that was built on secrecy and manipulation is going to lose its power over you, whether it ends completely or simply loses its grip on your peace. But in its place, God is going to bring people who do not need to be managed, do not need to be watched, do not require you to perform loyalty just to receive it back. Real friendship, covenant friendship, is coming to replace what counterfeit friendship could never give you. You will recognize these people by a simple test. They will feel the same in a room full of others as they do when it is just the two of you. There will be no performance, no shifting story depending on the audience, no strange coldness that appears only when certain people are watching. That consistency is the fingerprint of real loyalty, and heaven is bringing it to you. Third, your future. Doors that felt mysteriously closed because of whispers you never even knew were spoken are going to begin opening again, and you will walk through them wiser, more discerning, and far less naive about who you allow close to your story. Opportunities that seem to quietly slip away, connections that seem to cool for no visible reason, rooms you stopped being invited into, all of these are going to start realigning as the false narrative loses its grip. You're not simply going back to where you were before this betrayal. You are moving forward into a version of your story guarded by wisdom this season forced you to develop, wisdom you would not trade back for the comfort of never having known. Now let me speak honestly about what is happening on the other side of this exposure. Your friend is not walking through this untouched. Someone who builds a friendship on secret betrayal is also building, without realizing it, a private prison made of every lie they have to keep track of. The same mind that was once relaxed around you is now working overtime, calculating who knows what, wondering if a screenshot survived, wondering if a conversation got repeated to the wrong person, wondering if the version of events they have been performing in public is about to collide with the version that actually happened. That is not peace. That is exhausting. Sleep does not come easily to someone who is quietly managing a lie. There is a tightness that lives in the chest of someone who smiles at you while carrying the weight of what they have said behind your back. You do not have to imagine this out of bitterness. It is simply the natural weight of deception, a weight that eventually presses on anyone who carries it long enough. Watch how it usually plays out. The stories they told start to blur together, and they forget which version they gave to which person. Someone mentions something in passing that does not line up, and for half a second, panic flickers across their face before they cover it with a laugh. They become strangely defensive about things nobody accused them of. Because guilt has a way of answering questions no one actually asked. The very people they used as an audience for their gossip start to wonder, quietly, what this person says about them when they are not in the room. And trust, once it starts eroding in one direction, rarely stays contained to just one relationship. This is not something you have to orchestrate. It is simply what happens when a life is built on managing a story instead of living an honest one. But hear me clearly on this, chosen one, because this next part matters more than the satisfaction of being right. You are not called to celebrate their unraveling. You are not called to gather your own circle and start dismantling their name the way yours was dismantled. That would take the very tool that was used against you and put it in your own hand, and it would make you a mirror of the same spirit you are trying to be free from. Vindication that comes from heaven looks different from revenge that comes from hurt people. Heaven's justice does not need your help to be loud. It simply needs your obedience to stay clean while it works. There is a promise written over your life that says no weapon formed against you will succeed, and every voice that rises against you in judgment will be silenced, and this is the inheritance of those who belong to God. That promise does not mean the weapon was never real. It means the weapon does not get the final word. The secret conversations were real. The betrayal was real. The pain was real. But none of it gets to write the ending of your story, because that pen belongs to God, and He has already been writing something better than what was stolen from you. This is bigger than one friendship, chosen one. This is a spiritual pattern the enemy has used since the beginning, trying to isolate you through the very relationships that were supposed to strengthen you, hoping that if he can make you bitter, guarded, and cynical toward everyone, he can quietly sabotage every future connection before it even has a chance to form. Do not let this betrayal turn into a wall around your whole heart. Do not let one person's secret cruelty convince you that trust itself is dangerous. That would mean the betrayal succeeded even after it was exposed. Instead, let this become the moment you learn discernment without losing your capacity to love, wisdom without losing your warmth. There is also a principle in the kingdom of God that says hidden seasons of injustice often come right before visible seasons of promotion. Joseph did not walk straight from betrayal into the palace. He walked through a prison first, a place where it looked like nothing was happening, where it looked like the betrayal had simply won. But that season was doing something in him that comfort never could have done. It was building the kind of character that could carry real influence without becoming arrogant, real authority without becoming cruel, real success without forgetting what it felt like to be falsely accused. Whatever this friend's betrayal cost you, God is not simply going to restore what was lost. He is going to build something in you that could not have existed without walking through this fire, and then He is going to promote you into a version of your story your old self could not have carried. So here is what I want you to do practically, starting today. Because a prophetic word without practical steps is just a feeling that fades by morning. First, turn the memory of this betrayal into prayer instead of replay. Every time your mind wants to relive the conversation, the group chat, the moment you found out, notice the thought as it rises, and instead of following it down the same worn path of anger and analysis, hand it to God in that instant. Say, I am not going to carry this one alone tonight, and let that be enough. You will have to do this many times, not once, because healing from betrayal is rarely a single decision. It is 100 small decisions repeated until the old grooves in your mind stop feeling automatic. Second, set clear, calm boundaries with this person if they are still in your life. Forgiveness does not mean pretending nothing happened, and it does not mean handing your heart back to someone who has already shown you they will misuse it. You can release someone from bitterness while still choosing not to share your unguarded self with them again. Boundaries are not the opposite of forgiveness. They are often the proof that forgiveness has actually taken root, because a person still stuck in bitterness usually swings between cold distance and desperate closeness. while a person who is truly healed can be calm, clear, and kind all at the same time. Third, resist the urge for secret revenge. Do not build your own quiet campaign to expose them the way they exposed you in whispers. It will feel justified in the moment, and it may even feel satisfying for a few hours. But it will cost you the very peace you are trying to protect, and it will hand the enemy exactly what he wanted from the beginning, which was never really your friendship. It was your character. Let heaven handle the size of this. You handle your own peace. Fourth, pour your energy into the relationships that stayed steady through this season. And stay open to the new ones God is bringing, instead of obsessing over the one that broke. It is easy to fixate on the one door that closed and forget to notice the three that are quietly opening. Spend deliberate time and attention on the people who showed up consistently, even if that circle is smaller than it used to be. Small and steady will always outlast wide and shallow. Fifth, if this wound goes deeper than you can process alone, talk to someone wise, a pastor, a mature believer, a counselor, someone who can help you untangle years of pattern instead of just today's pain. There is no spiritual medal awarded for suffering in silence. Strength is not measured by how alone you carry something. It is measured by whether you are humble enough to let someone help carry it with you. Sixth, build a daily declaration over your own life and say it out loud, not just in your thoughts, because your own voice carries a different kind of authority over your spirit than a silent thought does. Say, I am not who they said I was. My name is being cleared. My future is not controlled by anyone's secret conversation. I trust slowly again, but I still choose to trust. These are not just nice words. They are agreements with heaven that shift the atmosphere around your life, spoken one morning at a time until they no longer feel like a fight and simply feel like the truth. If you are still with me right now, I want you to respond one more time because this next declaration is bigger than the last ones. Comment the words, exposed and released, as your sign that you are letting go of the version of the story where you were the fool and stepping into the version where you were simply the one heaven was protecting the whole time. Type 777 if you receive this word tonight. Like this message, so it reaches every person quietly wondering if their friend's coldness was ever going to make sense. Subscribe so you do not miss the next word meant to guard your peace. And share this with the one person you know has been smiling through a friendship that stopped feeling safe, because someone in your life needs this exact reminder tonight, and you may be the one heaven is using to send it to them. Now, wherever you are, I want you to go still for a moment. Let your shoulders drop. Let your breathing slow down. Because what comes next is not just the end of a video, it is a moment where heaven wants to meet you directly. I am going to pray over you now, and if you can, say the words out loud with me, because agreement invites heaven's response. Father, I bring before you the one hearing this right now, the one who has been carrying a betrayal they did not create, smiling through pain that no one else fully saw. You know every quiet conversation that hurt them, every whispered word that was never meant to reach their ears. Every night they lay awake wondering what they had done wrong when the truth is, they had done nothing at all. Lord, I ask you to finish the work of exposing what was hidden, not so that anyone is destroyed, but so that your child can finally walk free from blame that was never theirs. Heal the part of their heart that now flinches at trust. Restore their ability to open up again without fear. Where bitterness has tried to take root because of this pain, pull it out gently and plant discernment in its place instead. Discernment without coldness, wisdom without walls. I speak peace over racing thoughts at 2 a.m. I speak rest over nights that have been stolen by replaying conversations that cannot be changed. I speak clarity over confusion, and I speak courage over the fear of trusting again. Where they have started building walls instead of boundaries, help them tell the difference, so they protect their heart without sealing it shut forever. Where shame has crept in and whispered that they were foolish for trusting so freely, silence that voice completely, because loving openly was never the mistake belonged entirely to the one who abused that openness. And Lord, I bring before you the friend who chose secrecy over loyalty, who smiled to their face while working against them behind closed doors. You alone know the full weight of what led them to that choice, whether it was jealousy, insecurity, or wounds of their own they never dealt with. I do not ask you to destroy them. I ask you to convict them gently before the weight of their own secrecy destroys their peace from the inside. Where there is a door still open for repentance, let it stay open. Where there is hardness, soften it before it costs them everything. Break every agreement with jealousy and deceit that has taken hold in that relationship. And do not let this pattern repeat itself in the next friendship, the next family, the next season of their life. For the one hearing my voice right now, I speak a full commissioning over you. You are not leaving this moment as someone who merely survived a betrayal. You are leaving as someone who has been sharpened by it, someone whose discernment is now sharper, whose heart is wiser, whose future is being guarded more carefully than it has ever been guarded before. You are crossing a line tonight from confused to clear, from blamed to cleared, from isolated to chosen. New friendships built on truth instead of secrecy are already being prepared for you. New doors that quietly closed because of whispers you never even knew about are going to open again in their own time. You will carry this season not as a wound you nurse forever, but as a testimony you eventually use to help someone else recognize the exact same pattern in their own life. Put your hand on your chest if you can, right where that ache has been living, and say these words with me. I release what was done to me. I refuse to carry blame that was never mine. My name is being restored. My peace is being rebuilt. My future is not controlled by a secret conversation. I am seen, I am known, and I am chosen. Let that be your amen tonight. And know this, chosen one, the God who saw every hidden moment of that betrayal has also heard this prayer over your life. And he does not start a work like this without being faithful to finish it completely. If this word met you exactly where you are tonight, do not let this be a moment you simply feel and then forget by morning. Comment the words, "This was for me," so heaven can witness your agreement, and so someone scrolling through these comments tomorrow can see that they are not the only one carrying a story like this. Like this message, subscribe so you are here for the next word, and share it with someone who has been quietly wondering if anyone else could see what they have been going through. You were never invisible in this. You were seen the entire time, and now, chosen one, it is time to walk forward, lighter, wiser, and free.